Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I must say, I must give this lady an accolade. Like in 2008, she was a co-recipient of the Golden Saxman Fortune Global Women Leaders Award. Do you know what that means? For women in this space, women entrepreneurs, that's huge to have on your CV. That's really huge. Congratulations, Eva. Man, she was also named as one of the top 60 most influential women by Women Inspiration, WIE. Have you heard of WIE? Okay. And she's made headwaves and trailblazed. In 2012, Eva was among the 100 women nominated to receive the International Alliance for Women TIAW Award for difference in 100 countries, right? Man, Eva. Anyway, that's a short synopsis of like Eva's bio, but really, this platform is about Eva. As I said, Eva earlier, it's telling your story. Really, tell us more about who's Eva. Demystify yourself and how you actually got into the brand and strategy space. Eva, over to you.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Why doesn't everybody look so happy? What's going on? It's a happy economy. All right. Thank you very much, Jessica and Betty, for inviting me tonight. Confession, I've never been to the IHAB, so I'm very excited. I can't wait to tell everybody about the awesome reception you've all accorded me, and thank you for honoring me with an evening at the IHAB where we can just talk about brand building, why it matters, why we probably shouldn't bother with it, and just getting me introduced into this whole amazing initiative. So if I understood you right, your first question is, who's Eva? I am proudly Kenyan, born in Nairobi, and went to school both in Mombasa, and then spent my elementary years in Mombasa. Okay. Grew up as an only child to my parents, and spent high school in a very, very cold side of Kenya, which was Kikuyu. I was at Alliance for 6 years. So I'm homegrown, absolutely educated locally. Spent many years in corporate Kenya, and I'll tell you why that's important, because I learned so much spending time with phenomenal BAT. Some of you may recognize the brand. In our day and age, that was a very, very big brand. With time, and thankfully, with all the regulatory things that have come to play, perhaps that brand may not be very familiar, I hope, with many of you, but notwithstanding, spent time there, spent time in a PR agency, spent time working with the Standard Group, all right, and then spent time building a new brand that had come into the market called FedEx for about 8 years. So cumulatively spent some good years within corporate Kenya, and then made my way into entrepreneurship, and I've been at it about 15 years. I'm married, and I am a mother of 5 young adults, and PSD. How did I get into brand? Perhaps what I could begin to say is that very early on in my growing up years, my mother especially invested in a lot of language development. She made sure I learned to read and write right. Okay? And for that reason, I was always very fascinated with language. And I remember in high school, I spent a lot of time writing scripts for school plays and composing music and that kind of thing. I remember a good friend of mine had a little nickname for me. She used to call me the copywriter. I had no clue what copywriting was, but I passed with I allowed that to be like my reference. So I think in that socialization of being in the creative space, enjoying language, I naturally found myself curving into a communications career. I know that very early in my life, I used to say that I want to study mass communications, even though I didn't know what that was. Because regretfully, when I was growing up, career counseling was not quite what it is today. We didn't enjoy structured kind of hand-holding so that you would be able to aspire to get into the right kind of careers. It was sort of expected that you've been raised right, so go become an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, and if life should take you in a different direction, perhaps become a teacher, or a nurse. So I didn't fall in any of that, and somehow when I joined BAT, I was introduced to this whole big world of marketing communications, and I think the rest is history.
Oh, Eva. So what I'd ask is like, how did you why brand? Why specifically PR and brand? I mean, like, you were exposed to the world. BAT is a huge brand globally, and you stumbled upon like marketing and PR, but you went the PR direction. So, like, the audience here is that for many of the startups and SMEs can you give them a clear separation of like marketing and the PR side, like demystify the two and why you specifically focused on brand?
Okay, maybe we can talk a little bit here. Can we have an interactive session? Is that allowed? Never been to the iHub before, so I'm trying to be on my best behavior. So what do you all think a brand is? Let's talk about what is a brand. I'll take anything that you send my way. Yes. Image you project, the image of yourself you project. Yes, sir. The face of a company. Okay, yes. The identity of something, someone, an organization. We're making good progress. Yes, sir. Perception people have of you. Nice. Okay, yes, sir. Okay, all right. How many here have ever sat in a marketing class? Okay, all right. Sorry? Somebody said something, I missed that. Okay. So I want to say that every answer you gave has an element of what brand is, but perhaps not the absolute. Okay. And like with many things, brand has not remained static. For a long time, brand was a noun. Okay. You put the sign out there, you're communicating like that, I sell fish or I sell chips or whatever, okay? And your store is called XYZ, all right? No pun intended. So there was a very noun-y approach to it. Today, things are a lot different. Brand has navigated from being a noun into being a doing word, a verb, action, in fact, experience. So back to your question, you're saying, what's the difference between marketing and brand? I want to suggest to you that unlike people understanding that brand is a logo, or that brand is a product, or that brand is a service, or that brand is, you can fill in the blanks, it is really much more than that. Brand is beyond the logo to the meaning that that represents. So for example, we've got iHub. Got it? To me as a consumer out there, listening to perhaps a news update on iHub, or seeing you host a VVIP like you recently did, what is the meaning that I associate to the emblem or the label that represents iHub? Do you get the difference? Brand has moved from being the label and has actually multiplied and included meaning to the power of action. Got it? What is the experience of iHub? So I came in here tonight. You talked about it being perceptual. I totally agree. What perception drives me? The meaning I register cerebrally helps me to say what your brand is. Okay. So if I can try and simplify that conversation a little further. Brand has traditionally been associated to be a thing. Today, a thing is a commodity. You say sugar, and then there is sugar and there is Mumias, sugar. Phew, that was close. The bailout has helped. We're still, going strong. Okay, there is soap, and there is detergent. This is a trick question. There's detergent, and then there you go. I love it. Okay, so let's explore that conversation a little bit further. Why did you say Ariel? How many people said Ariel? Or how many people recognize it? Or how many people would actually walk into the store, find a whole collection of detergent and pick Ariel? Okay, let's talk about that. Why? Why, sir? Why would you pick Ariel? Say that again.
Because it's the most...
You said something before that. You said probably...
Because it's what I've heard about.
Probably because it's what I've heard about. Did you hear that? Probably because it's what I've heard. Another answer at the back? There was another shopper right there. Yes, you, sir. Yes, I saw that you were going to buy Ariel.
Yeah, I guess it's because it's been compared in a better way to Omo.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Stay with the perception, sir. You tick for me. Every time you hear it's perception, you tick, tick, tick. So he said probably it's because it's been compared better. All right. Some other contributions. Why would you buy Ariel?
Because I had an ex-lover called Omo.
Uh-huh.
He tore my heart and shredded my hands.
There you go.
So now I have a new lover called Ariel.
Nice. Okay. So I just heard you talk experience. Okay. Did we talk about experience? Okay. Any other ones? Why would you buy Ariel?
Me?
Yes.
I buy Ariel because in high school it made my life easier. When you soak your shirts, the dirt rises.
Okay.
So you barely have to wash.
So there's experience again. Okay. So somebody said awareness, probably because I've heard about it. Somebody else said something else. They make it look better. Okay. And that's why he's buying. They make it look better. Okay. And then somebody talked about experience. A couple of people talked about experience. So back to brand. In building an invaluable, and we can use Ariel as the test case here, and then you would have to join the dots to your respective business, your respective brand. The first thing is that there's got to be something different about your brand. by the time you have moved from the space of being commodity or a tech business, which would be the equivalent of commodity here. I run a tech business. That sounds commodity. That sounds commoditized. What's a tech business? There's thousands of them. How do I begin to know which one yours is? Differentiation. People love things that are different. Different perhaps in experience, different perhaps in packaging, different perhaps in the way you communicate, okay? Because he said, probably because I have heard about it. Was it the only message he ever heard? Quite unlikely. In fact, was it the only message he heard from detergents? Probably not. Got it? So differentiation, because in being different, you drive favorability. People favor things that are different. Okay? If I walked in here, I don't know, in a Mickey Mouse suit, something tells me that I would enjoy a lot of attention. What do you think? You'd keep glancing. If I sat next to you, you'd keep hoping that I don't tickle you or something. But people will favor you for being different. Okay? But don't just be different if you want to build an invaluable brand. Be different consistently. So I heard Betty say, in high school, it made life easy because every time I soaked it, the dirt came up. I want to ask you, Betty, did that happen on Monday only? Did it happen on Saturday only? Did it happen Saturday, Monday? Talk to us.
It happened every time I washed my clothes.
Lovely. So you'll be different consistently, okay? An invaluable brand is different consistently because when you're consistent, then you drive trust, okay? So whatever your business's proposition is within your techie side of things, you're going to be building a brand that's differentiated consistently. Because in being consistent, then people begin to trust my value proposition. It's not enough to be different and consistent, and that's it. No. He talked about probably because I have heard about it. You must make people aware. You must communicate. And this is where your PR question now begins to get responded to. How will I communicate? PR is a very strong tool through which you can build strategies that have got key messages that then deliver on exactly what it is you want to say to respond to an explicit need that your client, your customer, depending on whether you're selling detergent, is looking for. So you're going to be different, you're going to be consistently different, and we're going to communicate. We will build awareness, whether it means the signboard is out your store, whether it means your letterheads are communicating, whether it means your business cards are communicating, okay, whether it means your website, whether it means forums like these that will allow you to tell your BSD story. That awareness creation will drive familiarity so that people begin to respond quickly when they say, we're calling you from the iHub. Oh, okay, then I'm listening. But if I called you from the Z Hub, who are you? Got it? But if you're calling from iHub, there's a familiarity that I connect. There's a perception that's familiar registered in there that begins to build value for the brand. Okay? Let's talk about building value, which is the fourth principle that I want to talk to you about in response to your question, is that you then must build value. I spent some time with Jessica, and she was telling me about, I'm the partnerships director here, and I'm always looking for partnerships because those partnerships then build value for iHub. Got it? So that in doing that, the consumers or the community within iHub benefit from the strength of the brand iHub because of the partnerships that you are building. And in so doing, there's intrinsic value that's being established. So I want to start to respond to her question by saying that brand is holistic. Because by the time you've delivered on consistency of experience, there's people, correct? So there's a whole people thing there. Perhaps there's product that is being put together, correct? There's pricing. There's a level of promotion. We had done some probing. So marketing becomes, actually there are 7 now. Yeah, there's 7. Marketing becomes but an element of brand. So why did I opt for brand? It was when I got to the place in my career to realize that there's a bigger world beyond product, promotion, and price. That there's got to be marketing must work together with finance, must work together with the operations people, must work together with HR, so that your talent acquisition is in line with what your brand needs. Your talent development is in line with what your brand needs. Your talent retention strategies are in line with what brand needs. And therefore, brand is holistic. Do you get it? From your front office, to your sign, to the way they answer the telephone, to the quality of talent you're bringing into the business, to how you financially plan within your business, impacts on brand. To your communication strategy, impacts on brand. So I hope I have answered in a very diverse way that PR is a tool, marketing is an element, and brand then becomes the bigger. Got it?
We get it? Did we get it? Thumbs up. High five for Eva. Woo! All right. Eva, you've given a very kind of like general view of brand and marketing as an element of it and PR as the tool. Now, what I'd like to actually delve deeper into is like, we're going to make this interactive. Oh yes. And this is what the IHub is about, connections, interactions. And I'm going to pick a few people from the crowd who are in partly startup SME. And let's hear a little about your brand and how you built it and what elements that you kind of like utilize from Eva's advice. So I think I saw a hand up there, Betty. Do you want to tell us a little more about how you started Startup Grind and how you actually made the brand kind of like porous through the Nairobi tech ecosystem? Betty?
Okay. So when I came across Startup Grind, they already have this brand that has existed since 2010, and it's a community for entrepreneurs, and it's a place where it's about giving before you take. It's about making friends. This is what it meant to me. It's a safe space for an entrepreneur where you can come and share your troubles and talk about what you need and actually get help or learn or get inspired. So when I found out I wanted to bring the same thing to Nairobi, bring the same shared space, I like to call it like Alcoholics Anonymous for entrepreneurs. You know, where you go like, hi, I'm Betty and I'm an entrepreneur and this is my problem.
Okay, so we can start that. What do you think? Okay, let's introduce ourselves.
Yeah, so what I'd like to portray is, on one hand, empathy, on another hand, connections, meaningful connections for your business or for your personal journey. That's what Startup Grind Nairobi should be.
A few other people from the crowd, tell us a little more about your startup, where you started, or your SME. Go, people, don't feel shy. Come on. Aha. Jerry, Rish, would you like to tell us a little more about your music career?
Oh my goodness.
Can you tell us about you are venturing into the entrepreneurship world, I believe, in music. Let's hear a little more about that.
Like I said, I just started, so there's not much to tell at this point.
What music?
Rock music.
So you see, okay, all right. So maybe I'll ask you, what's your plan to differentiate? So music, commodity, rock, commodity, got it?
Right.
So within rock, why should we be looking out for you? Or why do you think we're going to be jumping?
Well, already that it's rock in Kenya is a bit different. Yes, there's a crowd,
Nice.
but it's pretty unique, so to
Yes.
speak.
Uh-huh.
And the fact that as we speak, I would be the only solo female rocker in Nairobi
Nice.
that is known. So that in itself differentiates me from, I guess, every other singer.
Okay. Yeah?
Whoa.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got to be very purposeful, you see. You've got to be deliberate. Because you must tell yourself this thing every day. You must tell yourself this thing every day. Because in telling this thing every day, then you're going to be consistently doing this thing every day. Within the yardstick that you define, the parameters that allow you to be this differentiated. And then we're going to do more than be consistent. We're going to start telling our story. Okay, which is where advertising and PR become tools through which we can create the awareness. And as we create the awareness, then we begin to now drive value. And you look for partnerships that will embed the value. And the sum total of that is an invaluable brand. So that perhaps in another year, when we come back here, you won't be saying, sorry, there's very little to tell. You'd be like, I need 2 hours of your time, all you startup grinders. Okay, but very well done and all the best.
Thank you.
Lovely story.
Excellent.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we have an SME here. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is John Masiwe. I'm a founder of a business called Bluegate Technologies. It's an IT services company. So I've been running the business for 3 years, hence I stopped calling myself a startup. And I fall in the category of SMEs.
SME, nice.
Yes. The challenge I'm having is there's a plethora of IT businesses in Nairobi. Today, if you wanted to buy a laptop, top on your mind would be maybe PC World, maybe Jumia. So as a bootstrapped sort of organization, it's challenging because we do not have the marketing spend. I have a friend here who's a marketer, so sometimes I use these terminologies to feel good, like marketing spend. But in layman terms, I mean the marketing budget. So when I founded the business, the way I wanted to differentiate myself was I have a passion with the humanities, and I get technology very fast. So I wanted to sort of like have an intersection of the humanities and technologies. I saw that in my corporate career, the people who were serving us with IT were very technically oriented, and that scared off the end users, and I used to feel frustrated because the whole essence of IT is it doesn't exist as an end to itself.
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't know how you can advise with regards to the challenges that I've my thinking about branding is my wish is to be PwC. It's a service business, and like you've said, that brand has to be attached to meaning. So what are the things that PwC has done over the years to the extent that even if somebody is holding a raffle, nothing to do with auditing, the public feels confident if they say PwC is officiating, like Tasker Project Fame, You remember the winners would be opened by PwC, and people felt that there was fair play and that kind of thing. So that level of professionalism and just heightening my differentiation strategy, which is basically to be the focus on the end user's problems, and then technology comes in as a second sort of, not that we are about technology, like if you're thinking about IHAB, you're thinking here's technologies, and you're even afraid to talk because you're like, you say things that are not technology oriented. For me, the user is at the driving seat. Yeah, so
Lovely.
something like that, yeah.
Okay, let's first start by agreeing that PwC didn't just happen overnight. Yes. And this is the principle, that great brands didn't just happen overnight. Okay. Then let's also agree that during the recent meltdown, is it still recent? How many millennials in the house? So maybe it isn't so recent. But during the meltdown, top 100 brands interviewed that just remained right on top there. When they were asked what was going on, how come you guys didn't really, quote unquote, feel the pinch, was because they never have an off-brand day. They are consistently promoting their brand during rain, during sun. And I'm hoping that you're hearing the message here. But to answer your question, let me very quickly demystify some myths that we have had for a long time in this whole conversation of brand. The first, I think we attempted by saying, people have always said branding is about logos, okay? So I quickly want to say it is beyond logos. It is actually about the meaning associated to logos, okay? So let's talk about the Gikomba fire today, the most unfortunate fire today, okay? If you had been caught in this fire, let's just talk about it. I'm told that it completely destroyed Family Bank, I think, completely down to the ground. But assuming you are in that situation, and then from a distance, you see the Red Cross. What is the meaning you associate to the label Red Cross? Let's talk about that. Help, hope, safety, save lives, medical service, first aid, care, rescue, correct? The meaning associated to your brand, okay? Back to the PwC. What is the meaning? Let's just think. You walk into their office looking for partnership for iHub. You've walked into PwC. As you're sitting in the reception, or as your committee is thinking, PwC might be a cool one to visit. Let's talk about PwC since you've introduced it. What's going on perceptually in our minds?
Audits.
Sorry?
Audits.
Integrity, nice.
Professionalism.
Okay. Accountability. Trustworthy. Now let's talk a little more about what we just said. When you say audit, that is correct. And that's just 50% of the real deal. Maybe even 40. Because brands are a composition of the functional, which is the audit, the accounting, the consulting. They'd better be doing that at a bare minimum. Auditing right, correct? That they've got their certifications and they're recruiting the right people who know how to mess up with all these numbers, correct? But when you start talking about integrity, trustworthiness, now you're moving into emotional space. So brands are a sum total of the functional and the emotional. And you have to begin to think about, John, your business, where you said, I've got the end user in mind. I don't want them to be overwhelmed with thinking techie is the communication style here to experience my service. So fix the functional, just make sure that you're absolutely top notch and nobody will take your thunder from you, and then figure out what are the tactics that will drive an emotional connectedness.
A second myth is that great brands make great promises. Some truth in there, but I want to improve that a little bit and say great brands make and keep. And keep. And this is why we're saying it's moved from noun, where we just used to say, it's moved to experience. And experience will only be realized when we are keeping. So, John, you're going to have to ask yourself, how will I make sure that I am making a great promise that's differentiated, that's consistent, but that I'm also keeping it? What's the operational detail that needs to go into supporting me keeping it so that my brand begins to grow, my brand begins to get credible, my brand begins to get trusted? Because, like he said at the back there, it's perceptual, all right? Branding is an expense. It's a myth, sir, that branding is an expense. Do you think it is? Do you think branding is an expense?
No.
Investing in building your brand, I just said it. It's not. Because you'll need it on a rainy day. You talk to those top 100 brands that kept going when the odds were against them. Okay? Branding is an investment, and you must begin to think like that now. John, if it was 15 years ago, like me, starting my business, I would agree with you that I don't have marketing spend. But you know better. Today, it is very, very possible to build brand without really needing to spend. Got it? We have the reality of digital. Brands like 7Cs Technologies have not needed to buy billboards and take up full-page adverts. They've built their brands through forums such as this. Don't you agree? When Mike got into business, do you think he was the only techie business then? You understand? So we've got real-life Kenyan cases that we can benchmark, we can understudy, and we can learn from.
Eva,
yes.
I'm curious, you mentioned Mike Macharia because we've had Mike Macharia here for a fireside chat, and he's been one of the pioneers in the tech ecosystem. Could you tell us a little more of how he built his brand and 7Cs?
Well,
I think a lot of it had to do with keeping the promise. Because we talked about experience is today's currency. If I go to Java and I don't have a good experience, Java's in trouble because of today's reality. I think Mike was visionary. He was clear about his purpose. He has stayed true to what it is he has believed in. And often as entrepreneurs, you find that we will not have staying power, okay? I know him very well. I do some work for him. But I also know that he has worked very hard and very smart, and he has had great courage. Okay, courage, big principle there. Dream your dream. Live your dream. Defend your dream. Okay, nurture your dream. The other thing that I can say in response to your question is I believe that he has had the capability. Does your brand, does your business have the competencies necessary to keep the promise, to make and keep the promise?
What competencies are those? Team?
No, I don't know what your business is. Your business may be creating candles, software development, brand building. You'd better have the right capability within your organization or gain it. As entrepreneurs, sometimes we're so operationally caught up that we don't take time out to refresh and learn. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm going to take time out to go learn this. Okay? So be courageous enough to say, I'm going to go and learn it. So capability is critical. I think that he's also had a lot of commitment to the values of his business. We don't have anything to negotiate over. If you want to become the 7Cs of tomorrow, be committed. Be committed to your purpose. Be committed to your client, your customer. Be committed to the talent that is your staff. Be committed. I think that he's also had great character. that Seven Seas is reputed for something, and they have insulated it and defended it. And I think that the fifth principle that I've seen him employ is that he has had great compassion. He's a great Kenyan, don't you agree? Great African, don't you agree? And he has soul. By the time you have thought about Huduma Center, it's because you tossed in your bed all night thinking, can't it get easier? Isn't it? It takes compassion. So for us to be successful, you will need to wear a lens of compassion in order to respond. Okay? So I think to respond to, and when I say 7 C's, there are types that we have in this market that we can emulate, we can learn from. Yes, yes, absolutely. Compassion, we've seen his advocacy. He has taken on government and said we could do better. And now he is enjoying the dividends of it, all right? And I can see across the room we have enough Mike Mashiarias, Mashiarialets as well, who can do that. But I also want to demystify 3 other myths that we've had in branding. Other one is that branding responsibility sits with marketing. No, it doesn't. If you're the business owner, no, it doesn't. It sits with you. It sits with the team leader. It sits with the CEO. And then you cascade the understanding of what your brand represents throughout your organization. So all your ducks are in a row concerning what your brand means. Because it will be people, not the laptops, not the wiring, not the denims that will deliver the meaning of the brand, okay? Companies create brand value that we sit here. My brand called John Technologies is the one that's going to create value. I want to correct that and say that you must co-create value with your client, okay? Listen to them, get their feedback, include their contribution to the solution that you will go and proposition to them, because that's the only way then you'll be able to respond to an explicit or an implied need. And then the last myth is that brands, you know, what's the value of a brand anyway, that you can't measure it, forget about it. You can always measure brand value, and there are lots of tools and methodologies to do that. So did we bust some myths? Did we bust some myths? I think then that then begins to respond.
Yes.
I've got a question. So you started BSD 15 years ago, and 15 years ago people didn't know about brand as we do now, you know, despite the myths we still believe. So at that point in time, how did you package what it was that you were selling to your customers?
Okay, lovely question. I'll correct you there. 15 years ago, I set up a company called Color Creations Limited. Some of you may be familiar with it. It still continues. It's done gloriously well. Today, my business partner runs it, has a community of about 80, 90 odd people working at Color Creations, producing merchandise, branded merchandise. So the whole focus on brand at an entrepreneurial level began then. And 7 years ago, I let my business partner continue running Color Creations, which by the time, you know, regional response, yada yada, to start up BSD. Okay, so BSD has been a labor of love. Began on my dining table. Today we have a community of almost 50 people working there. Has grown into 4 amazing businesses that have, you know, we're nuts about brand building. I'll tell you something. Can we have a conversation? Hey, let's have a conversation. So, assuming that tonight I magnified a picture of the world at night, just think with me for 1 minute that it is possible to take a picture of the world at night, the entire world, okay? We're snoozing and somebody takes a picture, okay? What's interesting in that image is that there are parts of the world at night that this doesn't go off. So where do you think this goes off? And you're not allowed to say where Kenya Power is. What continents do you think wouldn't show light? You should have at least given me the pleasure. You're thinking about it, you know. You're taking your time. So, assuming, knowing everything you know about the power that resides within the iHub, that was an image displayed somewhere at an international conference, for example, and that then represents Africa, dark thing that you're looking for. There's a little car thing I'm seeing flickering out of Joburg and Cape Town, but otherwise everything else is pretty dark. How does that make you feel? If you can think with me. You know, we're creatives, so we think in pictures. Nice. I want you to tell me exactly what you said.
As a businessman, I'd be excited because that means everyone else is covered, and this is basically the last frontier. So it's the story of barter.
Lovely.
Came to Africa, saw people with no shoes. Someone else said, these guys don't buy shoes. By him, he thought, this is an opportunity.
Lovely, lovely. So let's develop that conversation a little more, okay? What do we need to do then to turn the lights on?
Kick out our politicians.
Nice, nice. So I'm hearing you speaking into visionary leadership,
Governance.
okay? Governance. Come on, everybody has to make a contribution. He's had his go. What do we need to do to turn the lights on? Yes, sir, right at the back. Creativity. What does that mean? Yes?
We may not necessarily have all the rivers to flow, but there are alternative ways that we can generate power.
Nice. Okay. So we're beginning to say we're getting green and we're getting renewable. Nice. Okay. Any other way that, yes, sir?
We need to have more entrepreneurs.
Nice.
Yeah, strong entrepreneurs.
So enterprise development, I like that. Yes?
I think we need to be different. We look at how
explain that.
We look at how they've developed their cities, and we do it differently.
Nice.
In the sense that, for the case of China, for example, we need to have our cities, you know, to have trees, more life, you know, something like that.
Nice. So global benchmarking, but we get authentic. Be smart about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Nice.
I would say also invest in research.
Yes.
In our universities, pump a lot of money in that because maybe we haven't discovered other ways of lighting.
Lovely.
The world.
So invest in knowledge centers, okay, and research. Yes. Everybody has to contribute. Everybody. We're turning the lights on tonight.
Probably create partnerships with like-minded people.
Yes. Lovely. Yes, this side now. Yes, sir.
I think we need to take risks. Like he said, someone out there said, those guys can buy shoes.
Thank you.
But Bata took the risk of coming and setting up there, and shoes were bought.
So calculated risk. See your risk. Calculated risk. Yes, sir?
I believe that we should be more of like a community, so that we can all link up with one another and come up with better ideas.
And something tells me that's very African. Yes. Isn't it?
Yes,
so we won't struggle to do exactly what you're saying. It's in us. It's innate.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yes, sir?
I think we need to stop making excuses and start taking control and, stop waiting for someone else to come and help us.
So change mindset.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay? Yes, sir. Yes.
Because the price of power in terms of
Yes.
installation
Correct.
plus the running costs are still keeping rural communities not connected.
Yeah.
And the government is making steps in that direction.
Okay.
So we need a
True.
lot more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
So we're on the
recently
right
the
track.
president,
Yeah.
I think, made it very affordable to install
Last mile.
transformers. yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yes. There's lots more. We have to turn the lights on tonight. Yes, sir. Yeah. To stay up longer. I'm hearing you. Yes.
Well, he took
Creativity, somebody said,
I was
yes?
going to say work harder.
Okay, work harder. What about global education? Yes? What about a healthy and energetic citizenry? Are we talking about food security here? To turn the lights on? Who's going to jenga the infrastructure? We should have said that if you on an empty tummy. Yeah? Or you were going to say one.
Before we can do all this, we need to tell ourselves that we can do it. We need to believe in ourselves.
So change mindset.
Yes.
I love it. There's one I'm looking for so that I can answer your question, Betty. Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. We can hear you. Okay. So take responsibility as individuals. This is my continent. I'm not waiting for IMF to come fix it. Do you think WHO is going to fix it? Quite unlikely. 50 years later? Yeah? So I'm hearing you. There are a couple more I'm still looking for.
I think, Eva,
Yes.
it's using my experience of the iHub this is contributing to the light in Africa. You've got to stand up, take control, take action, just do it. And why I say this is there's youth here.
Lovely.
Look at the African continent, 70% youth. Stop talking, just do it.
Lovely. So technological readiness, we need that. There's still one I'm looking for. Mumeshindwa. Scaling. I like it. Infrastructure. How about our narrative? Who's telling our story? And the story that has been told, have you been comfortable with it? Economist, 2000? Hopeless continent?
Oh, yeah.
Got it? All right? Something's shifting in the narrative, okay? And I'm sure that iHub is a brand that is beginning to retell the story.
Yes.
Retell the narrative. So Betty asked me, why BSD? Because of turning the lights on. Because we need to begin to move away from global education to speak into which, i.e., there's global education, there's Harvard, there's University of Nairobi. Help me with this. Come on, work with me. There's, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, all right? What would it take for us to build Ivy Leagues within the global education that this continent needs in order to turn the lights on? Got it? All right? So think about each of your businesses and the space that you represent in terms of sector. We've named everything. You're either in renewable energy or you're in technology, etc. How will we know that you're turning the lights on, if you're taking it on as an individual, if you don't build a brand? Betty, I'm answering your question. So this is what led me to asking myself, why haven't the lights been on? One answer is we haven't understood that other economies have kept their lights on because they understood the role and the power of brand building. Talk to me. What makes America? Perception, let's go back to your perception conversation. When you say America, what do you see in your head? Tell me. Okay, that's commodity. I want to hear
The American
you say.
dream.
I want, yes sir, McDonald's.
Yes.
Now we're talking. That's an entrepreneur. But entrepreneur, we said, is commodity. Until you start saying, until you start entrepreneurs, name some brands, personal brands.
Uber,
Steve
IBM.
Jobs. Now we're talking. Got it? But name America for me here, brand-wise. You said McDonald's. You said Coca-Cola.
Boeing.
Amazon.
Rockefeller.
Some contributions here. Facebook, Google, Apple, Walt Disney. Do you get the difference? These brands, have they contributed to the quality of life of American people?
Yes.
Have they contributed to GDP?
Yes.
Can we move the same paradigm into Europe? I think so. Look at what's going on in Asia. What has happened in Asia in the last 20 years? Do you know of a brand that used to be called Lucky Gold Star? Lucky Gold Star is LG. Thank you. So something tells me that when Asia looked around and thought, we can do this thing better, is when the LGs emerged and the Samsungs emerged. And what has that done to transform the narrative coming out of Asia, to transform the quality of lives and to contribute towards GDP? Do you get it? Why not Africa? So Betty, that's my long answer. Somebody needs to begin to do something about equipping and scaling and driving the competencies of African professionals and entrepreneurs such as ourselves so that we can do better with the brands that we are very capable of doing during a season of opportunity.
Eva,
Okay? So that's my answer to you. Yes.
in our presence right now
Yes.
is a young entrepreneur, Ngatia, who I believe is starting a company to shape the African entrepreneurship journey, right, Ngatia? You want to tell us a little more about that and what the company is called?
Okay. Hi. Hi,
I'm-
Ngatia. Yeah.
I'm a young entrepreneur, and the company that I'm coming up with is called Amadai, which is a Maasai word meaning crazy and out of the box. And the sort of values that we are based on is shaping the African entrepreneurship story. As a fellow young person here and entrepreneur, I feel like the African entrepreneur, gets lost so much on the ideas and not on really, the practical steps on how to follow up. And the focus of Amadai is to sort of connect with these ideas, connect with these people at a personal level, understand them, their needs from a business development perspective, from a legal perspective, from a PR and marketing perspective, really get a holistic view of the entrepreneur and what they need in order to scale. And yeah, that's
Lovely.
Amadai.
Well done. Awesome. Thank you for sharing your story.
So, Eva, how can you advise a young entrepreneur like Ngatia to build the brand awareness around what he's doing?
I think I've already responded to that. There are principles there that I had spoken into earlier that he can quickly embed without really needing marketing spend, okay? But I think even as we continue to have the conversation, I wanted to very quickly speak into why brands matter. So what about this whole brand conversation? And I want to say to you, how many people are in finance here? Oh, nice. Oh, they're in. Oh, well, of course you.
Well.
Put your hands together for the finance people in the room.
Woo!
Because this conversation will be of interest to all of you, but to all of us actually. Why brands matter? The first is that brands increase the level of cash flow. Assuming you've done everything that we have said you need to do, where you have understood that brand is the sum total of label, I-Hub, multiplied by meaning to the power of action. To the power of action means it will take my staff, it will take my customers, it will take my shareholders to deliver meaning for me to realize brand. Got the equation? Okay. Increase the level of cash flow. How? Because when you have a strong brand, you can offer premium pricing. Hello. And you can enjoy greater market share. Case in point, Safaricom. Hello. Case in point, Apple, DSTV, Nakumat. Got it? You will always know that it will increase the level of cash flow. You will have cash flowing because you invested in brand. Okay? The second is that it also accelerates cash flow. So you'll ask me, how does that happen? Because when you have built brand, you're able to introduce new products much faster. Build iHub, you can have iHub evening, iHub breakfast, iHub camp, and everybody is coming along because there's this power that resides within this brand called. They trust it, they believe it. Every time Safaricom unleashes a new product, we're running. We're believing it. We're not questioning it. What does that do for the business? It accelerates cash flow. So people are billing. You're having more money coming into the business, much more than if your brand is weak and you launch a new product. People will take longer to respond to it. The third principle of why brands matter is that brands extend the duration of cash flow. Extend the duration of cash flow. How? Because of customer loyalty. I don't want to get cut off my postpaid line, Safaricom. So Safaricom can map the whole year, knowing that Eva's line's going to remain paid. Do you get it? So you're able to extend the duration of cash. And then the last one is brands reduce the risk attached to future cash flow. The risk attached to future cash flow. How? By keeping the entry barrier really high. Oh, can you imagine if tomorrow Eva thought, okay, I'm going to set up a new iHub and call it eHub? It will be a struggle. Got it? Because people know the iHub more than they know the eHub. Do you get it? So build your brands. There's value in your brand. You can take your brand to the bank. You can negotiate with your creditors. You can negotiate with staff. They want to come and join you because your brand is strong. We all want to go and either intern or have a partnership with 7 Seas, correct? Because their brand is strong. It's established. All right? So why do brands matter? Very quickly, those 4 that are taking money to the bank. All right? Thank you. I don't know. I think I've gone beyond my time.
These are very, very powerful principles you've given us, Eva, like why brands matter and demystifying brand. But I think before we end, I'd like to know a little more about Eva personally. Who is Eva? You mentioned that you're married, and what do you enjoy?
Mokimo. I have 3 passions in my life. The first is that entrepreneurship, I was not socialized or raised in an entrepreneurial family. My family was, you go to college, you graduate, and then you go to Sharia house and look for a job. Okay? That's generally the family that I have come from. You become a teacher or you become a lawyer, but you don't do business. Business is not for us, and it's for people who have not been lucky in life. Okay? So I have gone against the grain. But in that whole space of entrepreneurship, I was totally amazed when I started my entrepreneurial journey to realize that there were such disparities between men entrepreneurs and the opportunities that they enjoyed and women entrepreneurs. So I found my journey in entrepreneurship informing an advocacy agenda around leveling the playing field so that everybody has equal opportunity. So one of my passions is women business ownership. I want as many women to be business owners, to thrive and excel in their businesses, because when a woman is doing well in her business that she owns, the family benefits. Okay? And if a family benefits, the community benefits. And if the community is benefiting, something's telling me the tax man is sort of like around the corner and having a field day for it. So one of my passions is women's economic empowerment. I think I heard you kind of introduce me that way. The other thing that I am completely nuts about is like hanging out here. I hope you guys won't send me home soon. But anyway, hanging out here because I love engaging with youth. I chair the Zawadi Africa Education Fund, the board of the fund. I don't know whether any of you recognize Zawadi. What we do is we raise scholarships for amazingly gifted girls, girls who are academically talented, girls who've demonstrated leadership, but girls who come from an economically disadvantaged background. And in the 10 years that I've been involved in the program, we have airlifted over 300 girls to some of the best institutions in the world. Most of the Ivy Leagues tap from the Zawadi Africa program, and I've been delighted to see Zawadi grow from Kenya into Uganda, Ghana, Mozambique, Swaziland, and we're continuing to grow. So youth, I love it. I have 5 that I have associations with, but you know, that's the way it goes. And then the last, but certainly not the least, is that I love to advocate, to raise awareness, and raise support for children with special needs. We have a daughter. Of the 4 girls that we have, our daughter Zawadi lives with special needs. She lives with cerebral palsy, and her life has just been the most amazing influence in who I have become in the last 18 years, because she's 18 now. She has taught me many, many things that no school teacher, no iHub lab would ever have taught me. So in her journey, I have learned that she was born into a beautiful family that has embraced it, but not many African children, not many Kenyan children have that opportunity to have a family that says, we're going to give you a fighting chance. And for that reason, we raise money and we raise awareness and we raise support for children with special needs through the Eva Muraya Memorial Charity Squash Tournament that has run for many years. So what are my passions? Those, but I really, really love my green mokimo with nyama choma.
Wow, we'll have to have lunch or dinner soon. All right, we'll open up to questions from the audience now. Although it's been interactive. Whoa, hand shooting up. Yeah, let's take the back and then come to the front.
Yes, my name is Lenny.
And then, yeah.
My name is Lenny, and when you were talking about yourself, something came to my mind about the way the culture you grew up with, about finishing school, getting a job, but you went against the grain. And I thought about the way you mentor people as well. So what would you respond to we have about 50% of the people who finish their KCPE, when they never make it to secondary school, the number gets smaller by the day. And I think, I don't know if you read newspapers, but the article on Monday...
I belong to the generation that reads newspapers.
There was an article on Monday that said more boys are dropping out of school than girls. And about 75% of the people who sit for their KCPE exams never make it to the university. So most of them, the moral spirit is killed way early on. So how would you address that? And as well as in Kenyan universities, I think the main logic behind it is that when most people finish university, go get a job. That is another problem that is really within the African community as a whole. Most people are not looking to become the next Mike Masharias. The many people like Watek Kenya, which is owned by people who are in their late 20s. And what would you say? What would your response be to how we can address that issue? How we can influence young people to do much better and to think out of the box?
Okay, so after your 36 questions loaded into one, I think first it's to own up to the fact that we've made some serious mistakes as a country. Okay? The status quo that you quote and that was published on Monday is not, I don't think that's what God intended for this beautiful country of ours. Okay? So having said that, you all need to begin to, I'm going back to what you said, we take individual responsibility, begin to put the right government in place time and again. We need to begin to get involved more from talking about these things and engaging. So for example, when's the last time you visited your high school? Your former high school? Thank you. Yeah. When is it we last visited our former high schools? Maybe it's there. When's the last time you visited the county government to find out what you could do to address this disparity that is of concern to you? The current government has a huge assignment because of the many mistakes that we made. But moving forward here, we must be smart about leadership. You addressed it in turning the lights on and ensuring that just the right people are the ones we're going to allow to have the last card in terms of policy, in terms of, but maybe if this is such an important thing for us as IHABers, let's talk about it. Let's find fora that we can go and express a collective, considered opinion concerning it. Let's find out. You are all in a wonderful time where the executive of the land has his ear to you. We didn't grow up in that kind of a Kenya. So take advantage of the platforms, the opportunities, the fora where you can express. The fact that you have IHAB sitting in his heart and mind, you already can do something about this. But let's each one of us ask, when did I last hang out in my high school? The young men in this room. We definitely need to do more for the boy child who has remained ignored. And that's going to cost us as a society in years to come. My persuasion is I was raised by my grandmother. My mother was single following divorce when I was very little. I'm a mother of daughters, so I have very strong persuasion because I have not known it very different, but that's my contribution. How about your contribution? But I think your questions were many, but in a very general way, what will I, as a Kenyan, do today to make things better?
Hi. Yeah, my question was more of asking for your opinion. You've talked a lot about branding, so I wanted to know for you as Eva, if you are presented with a bunch of brands, what is it that you would look out for? Is it the color, the values? I mean, what is it that would attract your focus and say this is a good brand?
Wow. I think it's a combination of everything. Like I said, all the answers we gave, it's a design. I think she said it's a collection But at the end of the day, it's the experience that I will have with it. Whether it's a product brand, you can be beautifully packaged, and then when I taste it, I'm like, ooh. Or it could be a corporate brand that is promising me gold, and when I go into the organization, far from gold. Do you get it? So I think the sum total is what was my experience of that, whether it's to taste it, whether it is to engage with it, whether it's to hang out at IHUB. I already have my perceptions, and they're positive. Please love me for half an hour more. So I think it's a collection of everything. I can't quite say color because I don't really know what that would be. It's a sum total of everything. Okay? Make sure. So let's go back to the formula just to answer Ngatia's question. What did we say our formula is? Label times meaning to the power of action. So assuming, Ngatia, that the colors were right, that the emblem of a half-bitten apple could mean something. Okay? If you're scoring it 10 out of 10, but when you multiply meaning, nothing. What's the total of 10 multiplied by 0? You get? You could have a very pretty looking IHUB logo. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. What's the point of looking cute and there is no meaning to you? Does that help? Okay. All right, couple more. I think there was, so that we can wrap up. I think she needs to say something tonight. Here, there's one in front of you.
Okay, my question is, if you get the assignment to turn around a brand like Uchumi, what do you think is ailing Uchumi, and what can they do?
Lovely question.
As a Kenyan product, as a product that is owned by Kenyans, and Kenyans who want to support Uchumi. Yeah.
You know, it would be presumptuous, and this is what you must never do with your business. You must get to the root cause. Because we know brands are perceptual, but what truly is ailing, I don't know. I would need to immerse. And when I am doing strategy for my clients, I have to let me in so we can understand. Is it a culture thing? Is it a pricing thing? Is it a poor strategy thing? Is it that they are not well differentiated? Maybe they're not well positioned. We didn't even talk about positioning. So I would not rush into saying what is ailing them, because I don't know. I'm a customer and I can't deal with the trolleys that are always hovering around my newly pedicured toes. What goes on with those things? Okay. But you know what? I would fight for Uchumi. So the equity of Uchumi still is there. Did you hear you saying Kenyans love Uchumi? And we do. Okay? But I think it would be unfair for me to presuppose. There are things I think they could do differently, but I would need to immerse in order for me to really respond honestly to your question. Okay? But if I'm there, I'm going to make sure that they differentiate, that they position in a competitive way, so that they're differentiating and positioning themselves to give themselves the best latitude to realize whatever their business strategy is intended. Okay? Does that almost begin to avoid your question? Yes. Wow. Okay, we've got to go here and then there. Okay.
In the spirit of branding.
Yes.
My name is Linda, and I am creating a brand known as Plus Souls. So Plus Souls wants to offer women with long feet like mine, fashionable and stylish shoes.
Nice.
So that's what I want to do. But my question to you is, there's always the question of balance, whether you are a woman in business or a man in business. So Patricia Itao says, balance cannot be achieved, but you can make decisions. So what is yours?
Ditto. You know, you integrate. That's exactly what Patricia is saying. You integrate, because it was always thought you could, but you can't. You prioritize the things that are important. You stay with the important, and then you integrate. Sometimes, when my kids were younger, I would probably know that after a key client meeting, within the day, drive through the school for the concert, and then come back to the office, as opposed to taking the day off, because your client doesn't want to know you've taken the day off. You get it? Because you need the client in order for you to afford to even drive to the school. So like Patricia, I would say that it's about integration. And today, courtesy of technology, boy, can we integrate. You can be waiting for the sports day to begin and still manage a number of emails. But then I think the other problem that technology has presented is that sometimes we don't know how to draw the line. Okay, it's my time with my teenagers. I need to see what they look like as they're telling me the things that they're telling me, because it's in the way they look that's really the story, more than what it is that they are saying. Okay, so it's integration with no apology. Balance, it left the station. That one we gave up on a long time ago.
One
yes,
question, yeah.
yes, sir.
So,
did I answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Okay. My name is Timothy Mwirabwa. I'm also a young entrepreneur. I run a company called Nairobi IO, and it's a new company. I registered it last year. So it's a tech company. We provide IT services, and we also build our own proprietary products. We want to build our brand. We want to establish ourselves as a technology company that comes from Africa and builds awesome products. And that is how we're going to be differentiating ourselves. Like, we want to build that brand. Like, in Africa, we can have great products, great technology products coming from here. Anyway, my question is back to when you began as an entrepreneur. Did you have any mentors, and or did you have any other inspiring lady entrepreneurs that you were looking up to, and what was the impact? Yeah.
Lovely question. I did, and it was not specific to women. I had different, people more seasoned than I was, who'd been at this game before. Very important. Identify somebody who can handhold you, somebody you can feel confident to take their feedback from, and who you can be true to, okay? But it's very, very important to have a mentor. And, different seasons in my entrepreneurial life. 15 years as an entrepreneur. Prior to that, there was corporate Kenya. So different seasons. So maybe as a startup, I had some types of mentors. And then as I moved into expansion level, I probably had one or two other ones. And today I still will bounce off a couple of people. In fact, just today's Tuesday. I knew I shouldn't have looked there. I should have stayed this way. My lunch hour was to have been such a session, because business, we're making some audacious decisions, and I needed somebody who knows me and can say, Eva, I think you're crazy enough to do this. You know what I'm saying? So yes, absolutely, arm yourself. Get a mix. I've had the wonderful fortune of having local and global mentors, so carve your path, and don't be afraid to reach out to them, especially today, with LinkedIn. You can just find somebody and you think this person might be very profitable to you in terms of mentoring or hand-holding you. Reach out to them. Social media has just sort of like shrunk the distance and cut down the corridors. Isn't that true? Yeah? So absolutely. Arm yourself so that you make less mistakes. But even when you make the mistakes, just pick yourself up, dust, and that's a beginning of success, to make some mistakes.
Yes. And how about your mom? Was your mom an entrepreneur? And did she encourage you when you decided to be an entrepreneur?
My mother, who has since left us, my mother was trained as a secretary. Do you all know that? Do you know what secretary is? Can I stand up? Yeah, if you like, My mother was a secretary, because that's what girls of her generation all became. And then after a while did get into some level of entrepreneurship, but it was not in the way that today entrepreneurship is practiced. And like I said, I don't even remember being socialized as an entrepreneur on my mother's side of the family. It was when I met my husband that I really was introduced to real entrepreneurship. So I went through the school of entrepreneurship. My sorrow is that my mother died before I ever became a real entrepreneur. I had just begun. And 11 months into my entrepreneurship journey, my mother went to be with the Lord. But, hey, yo, we're cool, So no, she was not an entrepreneur, but I have had women entrepreneurs in my life. Not as many as are available today to you all, okay? Somehow, women's entrepreneurship then was very rare, We had Beth Mugo, Honorable Beth Mugo. We had people like Jane Kiano. We had people like Eunice Madhu. You could count them, at least the ones in urban or Nairobi spheres. Of course, we've got dynamic women who've done amazing things in other counties. But, when I was growing up, I really didn't even have a woman entrepreneur mentoring me. But today, you all have no excuse. There are lots and lots of successful women doing amazing things. All right? Yes, sir? Are we almost done? We're not? Okay. All right, then. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Should I go?
Yes. Okay. Oh, yes. He's been... Okay. We're going to do like 13 minutes with you.
That's quite fine. My name is Victor Matata, and I have a passion for health.
Nice.
Now, I also own a health startup called Med Event Kenya, where we consider ourselves as bringing education to health, obviously for the benefit of the public and for the benefit of the healthcare practitioners.
Nice.
Now, my question is this. I just got into staffing. How do you get your employees passionate about your brand? Yeah.
Wow. Are you passionate about it yourself? That's the first place to start, because it will rub off, okay? Did I say I began on my dining table with BSD? Okay. Today, some of the people who would hang around my dining table because they were my first hires, I hear my paragraphs in their language during pitches. I hear them defending our vision, our mission. I hear it because I'm nuts about BSD's purpose. The onus is you. You've got to be the one who completely loves the thing that you do, that you are completely clear in your mind about what it is you want to do with this brand. Because once that clarity is well defined, it's structured, the rest is history. However, you must be extremely diligent in first figuring out what your brand values are, and then you're going to recruit right. You're going to recruit for knowledge, that they are knowledgeable about your business, about your purpose, about your industry, but not just knowledgeable, that they are passionate. Because what's the point of being knowledgeable with no passion, or perhaps even worse, and passionate and they have no idea about what they are being passionate about. Got it? Okay. But I think the onus is on the team leader, and this speaks to everybody, guys. Don't expect your teams to be passionate when you're. You've got to resonate, especially at an owner manager level business. It's got to be you carrying it. It's got to be you articulating it. It's got to be you celebrating it. And during those moments when unateremka kidogo, it's got to be you saying, guys, don't worry, going. That was just kukosea step. Sindio. All right. I think there's just more, and then we're nearly done. Hi, my name is Sela, and my question to you would be, how do you brand
Okay, I believe that different kinds of tangible things. Under the intangible services, and then we have the change of behavior. So how do you package change of behavior to have ownership on the because you're the one who understands what the impact of that change of behavior would be.
So I'm going to work with what you just said and say that whether your service or whether your product, there will be functional attributes of your brand and there will be emotional. Colgate. Okay? Does it clean teeth? Does it give you fresh breath? Surely any toothpaste at bare minimum functional. Correct? Right? It's when you begin to have some fuzziness about this brand called Colgate that makes you move towards it much more than brand X. So I just want to be very clear that you may be service, you may be a product brand like Colgate, you may be service like iHub, but there is both emotional and there's functional. Okay. And the other thing that I wanted to say when Gatia had asked his question earlier is you need to remember that brands is a relationship. It's like falling in love. Okay, now we're getting into the mushy stuff. Because brands is about mushiness. Truly it is. You know, you're into it or you're not. There's no, okay? And you know about these things of falling in love. You can be so irrational. This is a thing with brands. The consumers are irrational. They fast and then they rationalize. You get? You make the buying decision, then later you start to justify to yourself why you thought that was a good. You understand? Because of this whole intrinsic thing of emotional drivers that make you to make the purchase. Now let's go back to your question of behavior change. Clarify exactly what you want me to answer.
How do you package it? I work for an NGO, hence my question. So I deal a lot with change in behavior. So how do you package it? Because it's a very thin line where when you have an NGO and you're known, it's Mkona Pesa, and you're more of, we want you to get to know us so that you can interact with us because we'll influence your future. So how do you package it so that they actually buy into it without the risk of them approaching to you with expecting handouts?
The interesting thing is that irrespective, brands drive behavior change. Your Java, you want all of us to stop drinking coffee in our houses and start coming to you. So this is the interesting thing, that every single brand is driving some level of behavior change so that there can be an acquisition of sale, a conversion. But what you're trying to ask, I think, is, the response would probably be that I first need to understand what your issue is with the cause that you're trying to communicate. So what's the gap? What's driving the gap? Hence your Chumi, get into an immersion. What's driving the gap? Is our cause well positioned? Is it differentiated enough? Or will they say, hiyo pia tulisikia na wale wa mama wengine, si wale walituambia tuingie ile clinic? Is it responding to an explicit or an implied need? And then how do we shrink the gap? Shrink the gap is when we come back now and deal with tools of communication such as advertising and public relations. Is it stakeholder communications? Is it advertising? Is it barazas? Is it the pulpit? Is it? And in that whole integrated approach, you will deliver behavior change. Got it? Does it work? Lovely. Nice. Last question. Betty has bailed us out. Makofi for the last question. Yes, sir.
Okay, so my name is Brian, and I was wondering with the social sites coming up, Facebook, Twitter, etc., has that sort of like changed the game when it comes to branding drastically?
Yes.
Because, for example, take socialites. like 10 years back, they just be a pretty person in that town over there, but
Mhm.
now they can be known in the entire world. Like, is there a way to join that thought, to
Not-
bring your own brand, per se?
No, it is happening today. And in fact, the nightmare, quote unquote, for PR practitioners is in my day, I'm allowed to say that, you would send a press release to The Nation, to The Standard, to the Weekly Review, or, there was like maybe 5, 6, okay? Today, you're sending Nation, but you're finding that there's a whole community there. Why? Because not only did the business editor print and broadcast, you know what I'm talking about, and then there's another one called Larry Madowo, who's got 400, 500,000 followers on Twitter. You get? He's a whole other influencer vehicle. There's a Jeff Koinange. Within Standard, you did the traditional, okay. So has it changed, was your question? Absolutely. And those brands who are not cognizant of changing times will have themselves to blame when we attend the funeral of, rest in peace, brand X, because you didn't wake up to smell the coffee. All right? Okay, so absolutely, it's integrated. You can't keep it traditional. You can't be static. You've got to measure it every day. You have to manage it every day. You've got to have the right competencies. Larry, and then the bloggers. Do you understand? It's a whole way in which we're communicating. It won't be fair on me to let you wrap it up before I ask you to just say one thing tonight.
Hi, my name is Ty, and I'm going to be here for about 2.5 months. I'm working with an international development firm, and so I'm really enjoying the country so far, so thank you.
Have you enjoyed hanging out with us tonight?
Oh, definitely. It was a great experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Oh, there's... Okay, they're twins. Betty? All right, okay. Yes.
Very, very brilliant. My question to you is, Kenyans are obsessed with getting degree after degree after degree. And sometimes you find somebody, even into their 30s, 40s, still chasing degrees. My thinking is probably you just have a first degree, but your presentation here has been stellar. I mean, I could have been in Stanford, just from your marketing presentation. So what is your commentary on, and maybe for the young people here, on the place of education, as opposed to rolling up your sleeves after your first degree and basically working and having achievements speak for you? Because I think sometimes forget education to cover for lack of achievement.
My very quick comment is that education is great. Education is great. Let's get it. But I think that the opportunity entrepreneurship provides us to become better educated. Did you hear that? The opportunity that entrepreneurship provides for us to become better educated is really the game changer. John, okay? My life has been many MBAs, many times over. Yeah, but thank you so much for your very, very kind compliments. Are we going to go with you?
The gentleman.
Thank you, Eva. Actually, the reason I came here is because I know Eva more as a brand than even your companies. Yeah? So I was actually coming here thinking, where's Eva been? Because I know you as a pioneer marketer, so thank you for making time. Actually, mine is, I'll extend his question, then ask my question. So further to his question about degrees, I'm just curious to know, having worked in a corporate company and becoming a serial entrepreneur, what in your view, what do you think hinders a lot of Kenyans from jumping ship from, let's say, a big corporate like Safaricom or BAT and starting their own company when probably they can see the opportunity, they have the ability, but they just lack something What stops many Kenyans from doing that? Then to my question, I'm only 2 weeks old as an entrepreneur. Yeah? Having come from a corporate, I was actually head of marketing in UBL, managing our spirits business. But I think I kept on getting frustrated seeing a lot of young people probably lacking mentors. So I just thought, you know what, I'm in a comfort zone. I could do this with my eyes closed. Let me go to the deep end. But I'm just curious, from your perspective, what would you advise? If you're to turn back the wheels of time, what would you do in your first 12 months in entrepreneurship?
Okay, lovely question. I think that our socialization, we still have a long way as Kenyans in building respect of entrepreneurship. I think we still are dealing with entrepreneurship as hustle, okay? Because jua kali has been a negatively labeled tag for livelihood. And I think many times you'll find even those who leave, say, EABL, knowing everything that you know, you still end up jua kaliing, you get? So I think socialization is one reason that people have been afraid. The other one is that, face it, it's a hostile environment. We're not even nearly where we need to be as a country in creating an enabling environment for enterprise to thrive. Cost of production, cost of finance, you know, mentorship, cost of raw materials, etc., etc. So I think that can cause people to be afraid. And then I think mindset, we talked about earlier, when we're talking about turning the lights on, we just need to re-engineer the way we think. We're too multinational dependent. You know, I grew up in a time when if I didn't work for Unilever or BAT or, you know, what marketer are you? Okay? So I think it's ignorance about the opportunity. Do I have any regrets whatsoever of having quit my regional multinational job to do what I'm doing and have been doing 15 years? Absolutely not. Has it been easier? Absolutely not. I'm sure my swivel chair would have been a lovelier ride 15 years later. I'd have less wrinkles and less gray hair. But no regrets. But maybe to speak into the first 12 months, the reason I said why my telling you the story of corporate Kenya was important is that you are at the cusp of succeeding as an entrepreneur because of everything you have been taught by EABL. Use that skill and experience and guard it jealously. Don't jua kali. Set up right within reason. Okay, I'm not talking about you going to take up a whole floor of you know what I'm saying? But learn the principles, because the EABL was built on the same principles that you will need to build the next EABL. Okay, so I would say that be frugal, be visionary, be unapologetic, okay, first 12 months. Have clarity. Don't spend 7 months still figuring it out. You don't have that luxury. You're not on an EABL tab, okay? Be frugal. Be courageous, okay? And keep telling yourself there couldn't be a better you. You know, you're not a photocopy. There'll never be another you. Embrace your dream. Just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. And then pray. It works. It works. Okay? So, guys, I have totally enjoyed my evening here. Thank you so much, Betty, for inviting me into your community. I have loved the conversation. I hope that I have been able to make a little contribution towards your world of brand building. and I look forward to other interaction. If I'm sort of like walking past you at Uchumi or Nakumat, feel free to completely hang on to my shoulder and say, "Where mama? Haunikumbuki." But thank you, work hard, love Kenya, and God bless you. Thank you for your kind attention.
Whoa. I think that handshake, no. Come on, man, let's give you thunder. Woo! Eva, on behalf of iHerb and Startup Grind, I'd like to thank you very much for your presence here, your gracious advice about telling us your story. You actually like resonated with a lot of us, did she? Yes. And we want more Evas in this space, more people telling us about the entrepreneurship journey and why they actually took the plunge. But I can say some of the things, the blogs, the tweets, the Facebook shares, invaluable. You had to be here today between 7 and 9 to listen to her, right? Now, if you believe that, become an ambassador of entrepreneurship. I challenge you, challenge the status quo. Become an ambassador of entrepreneurship and get your colleagues to attend events here at the iHerb and at Startup Grind. How many people are you going to bring to the next Startup Grind? Here? Dan? Okay, so please be an ambassador and bring colleagues to the next Startup Grind, which will be announced on the Startup Grind social media networks. And without further ado, Eva, we'd like to give you a gift, and Betty, who is director of the Startup Grind chapter, will do that. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was really special for me. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Eva, I have one more thing for you. We're doing Mukimo lunch next week, so we'll exchange cards and we're going to do a Mukimo lunch.
I want to show them my gift. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You all want to be me right now, eh? Oh, lovely. Look at
Oh! Talk about the branding.
Oh my goodness, thank you. This is so special. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you very much. Build brands. We need to turn the lights on.